Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our series on the Ottoman Sultans. Today, we are diving into the reign of a ruler often overshadowed by his more famous father and son, Bayezid II. While his father, Mehmed the Conqueror, was all about rapid expansion, and his son, Selim the Grim, was known for his ruthless ambition, Bayezid's era was a different story. It was a period of consolidation, cultural flourishing, and surprising acts of humanity. So let's explore the life and legacy of the Sultan known as Bayezid the Just. When Bayezid ascended to the throne in 1481, he wasn't just stepping into his father's shoes. He was inheriting a vast, newly conquered empire that was still trying to find its footing. Mehmed the Conqueror had stretched the empire's resources to their limits. The treasury was strained, and the janissaries, the elite infantry corps, were restless and felt their power had been curbed. Bayezid's immediate challenge was to stabilize this massive ship. His first major test came from his own brother, Sem Sultan. As was often the case in Ottoman history, a succession crisis erupted. Sem, governing from Konya, challenged Bayezid for the throne, proposing to split the empire. Bayezid, understanding that a divided empire was a weak empire, flatly refused. This sparked a civil war. After a series of battles, Sem was defeated and fled, first to the Mamluks in Egypt, and then, in a fateful turn of events, to the Knights of St. John on the island of Rhodes. This is where things get really interesting, like something out of a medieval thriller. Sem became a political pawn in the hands of European powers. The Knights of Rhodes, the Pope, the King of France, they all saw him as a valuable bargaining chip against the Ottomans. For years, Bayezid had to pay a hefty annual sum to keep his brother imprisoned in Europe, preventing him from launching another invasion with Christian support. Sem's tragic story ended in Naples in 1495, where he died under mysterious circumstances, likely from poison. His death finally lifted a huge weight off Bayezid's shoulders, securing his rule once and for all. This long drawn-out affair showed Bayezid's cautious and pragmatic approach. He preferred diplomacy and financial maneuvering over risky military campaigns. With the internal threat from Sem neutralized, Bayezid could finally focus on his true passion, building and governing, not just conquering. He reversed some of his father's more controversial financial policies, returning properties that had been confiscated to their original owners, which won him significant support among the populace and the religious class. He was deeply pious, earning him the nickname Veli, or the Saint. He spent his time patronizing art, architecture, and scholarship. Under his rule, Istanbul continued its transformation into a magnificent imperial capital. He commissioned the stunning Bayezid II mosque complex, which included a mosque, a hospital, a library, and a school. This wasn't just a building project. It was a statement about his vision for the empire once entered on faith, learning, and public welfare, perhaps the most defining moment of Bayezid's reign, and the one that truly cemented his legacy as a just ruler, came in 1492. That year, the Catholic monarchs of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella, issued the Alhambra decree, ordering the expulsion of all Jews from their lands. It was a moment of immense crisis for the Sephardic Jewish community who had lived in Spain for centuries. They were forced to either convert to Christianity or leave everything behind. When Bayezid heard the news, he reportedly said, "You venture to call Ferdinand a wise ruler, he who has impoverished his own country and enriched mine." He didn't just offer sympathy. He took decisive action. He dispatched the Ottoman navy under the command of Admiral Kemal Reis to evacuate the persecuted Jews from Spain and bring them safely to Ottoman lands. He issued a decree throughout the empire, ordering his governors to welcome them with open arms. They were granted citizenship and allowed to settle in major cities like Istanbul, Salonika, and Edirne. This wasn't just a humanitarian gesture. It was also an incredibly shrewd move. The Jewish refugees brought with them a wealth of knowledge, skills, and international connections. They were physicians, printers, merchants, and diplomats. In 1493, they established the first printing press in the Ottoman Empire, decades before many parts of Europe. They revitalized trade, introduced new technologies, and contributed immensely to the cultural and intellectual life of the empire. Bayezid's decision to welcome them stands as a powerful testament to his foresight and tolerance, creating a vibrant, multicultural society that would be a hallmark of the Ottoman Empire for centuries. While his reign is often called peaceful, it wasn't without military conflict. Bayezid had to contend with the rising power of the Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt and the Safavids in Persia. He engaged in a long, indecisive war with the Mamluks over control of territories in southern Anatolia. He also fought several campaigns against the Republic of Venice, a major naval power in the Mediterranean. These wars saw the Ottoman navy grow significantly, capturing key Venetian fortresses in Greece like Lepanto and Modin. These conflicts were more about securing borders and controlling trade routes than the kind of ambitious, large-scale conquests his father had pursued. Bayezid was a consolidator, not an expansionist. However, the greatest threat to Bayezid's peaceful later years came not from a foreign enemy, but from within his own family. As he grew older, the question of succession loomed large once again. Bayezid had several sons, but two emerged as the main contenders, the thoughtful and cultured Prince Ahmet, his favored heir, and the aggressive and ambitious Prince Selim, governor of Trabzon. Selim was the polar opposite of his father. He was a warrior at heart, impatient with his father's cautious policies. Stationed near the border with the Safavid Empire, he saw firsthand the growing threat from Shah Ismail and felt his father wasn't doing enough to counter it. Selim began to build his own power base, gaining the loyalty of the Janissaries who admired his military prowess and shared his frustration. He saw his father's preference for Ahmet as a sign of weakness that would endanger the empire. The rivalry escalated dramatically. Selim, in open defiance of his father, marched an army toward the capital. He was initially defeated by Bayezid's forces and forced to flee to Crimea. But his support among the military was unshakable. The Janissaries, remembering how they had put Bayezid on the throne decades earlier, began to openly demand that Selim be made sultan. They saw him as the strong leader needed to face the Safavid threat. In 1512, the pressure became too much. The Janissaries essentially staged a coup. They surrounded the palace and gave Bayezid an ultimatum: abdicate in favor of Selim or face the consequences. Seeing that he had lost control of the army and wanting to avoid another devastating civil war, the aging and weary sultan agreed. It was a bitter end to a long and largely peaceful reign. Bayezid abdicated the throne, a rare event in Ottoman history, ceding power to his formidable son. His plan was to retire peacefully to his birthplace, Dimatoka, but he would never make it. Just a month after leaving Istanbul, Bayezid II died. The official cause was old age and ill health, but many historians suspect that he was poisoned on the orders of his son, Selim, who wanted to ensure that his father could never become a rallying point for his opponents. It was a ruthless end for a ruler who had shown so much compassion to others. So how should we remember Bayezid II? He wasn't a conqueror like his father or a unifier of the Muslim world like his son, but his reign was absolutely crucial. He was the anchor that stabilized the Ottoman Empire after a period of whirlwind expansion. He healed internal divisions, rebuilt the economy, and fostered a golden age of culture and learning. His act of welcoming the Jewish refugees from Spain is one of the brightest moments in the empire's history, showcasing a level of tolerance and pragmatism that was rare for its time. He was a builder, a patron, and a diplomat. His story is a powerful reminder that in the grand sweep of history, periods of peace, consolidation, and justice are just as important as periods of war and conquest. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed learning about the complex reign of Bayezid II, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll be tackling the fearsome legacy of his son, Selim the Grim. See you next time.